Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Alright. You know how to tighten this clockwise tighten?
Oh, now that I generally figured out in flight. My check. So I wouldn't know that long.
Sure you good though?
I'm sorry?
Sure you good?
Oh yeah, we straight.
Alright,
Thank you.
no problem.
Hey, one of y'all here. Huh? Yeah, I'm gonna have to make sure I call and double check because that's what the game plan is. I just gotta put you a team together. I'm gonna put you one together in a minute, but it's gonna be 4 drivers, I hope. You know what I mean? And then that way, y'all can figure out the ride later. Who gonna drive? What happened? What's wrong? You the most leaving this Bible. That's because you be on that doggone phone app, Bible. I'm still old school. I use it though when I'm about to post the script or when I'm looking for one. Even then, I feel like I'm cheating. All right, here we go. Let's get this right. Did I put this in the back of the book? I sure did. Hey, we're gonna use this for the mic. So, cause I couldn't really get no other mics, and I ain't had time to play with it.
Welcome to Join Me. Please enter your conference ID and press the pound key. You will now be placed into the conference.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Hello,
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine.
Sorry I'm late. We had a little rough traffic up here today.
That's okay.
All right, well,
You're here, that's all that matters.
all right, we're gonna get started in about 1 minute. Let me just get this last code in.
Okay.
No, did I? No, Art did.
Please enter your organizer code.
Just the one right there. Nah, I don't know what happened.
The organizer code you entered is not valid. Please enter your organizer code. The organizer code you entered is not valid. Please enter your organizer code. The organizer code you entered is not valid.
Let's try this one more time. Oh,
Oh, there we go. Found it. Chris found it.
man, we just gonna have to forget to mute today unless it just go crazy. Nah, my phone acting weird. Oh, we probably could have called from yours. You got the charger? Nah, it's all good. Hey, peace. All right, everybody, We're gonna go ahead and get started.
You about to shake?
I hope you guys can hear online. Nah, don't worry about it. It ain't no big deal. It just make it sound better online. What I'm looking for? Oh, we can go ahead and open up. Oh, no, we can't. One last thing.
Yeah, I'm on stage. I gotta call you back.
right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and open up with prayer, and then we'll get going. Go ahead, brother.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come.
thy will be done in earth,
Thy will be done in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts
as we forgive our
as
debtors.
we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory
forever.
forever.
Praise the Lord,
Praise the Lord.
for he is good,
He is good,
for his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel,
Praise the Lord, the God of Israel.
for he is good,
For he is good,
for his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
The Holy One of Israel,
The Holy One of Israel,
the Mighty One of Jacob,
the Mighty One of Jacob,
the King of
The mighty
kings
one of Jacob,
King,
and Lord of lords.
King of kings,
Amen.
Lord of lords. Amen.
You hear him now.
Good.
All right, everybody. It's definitely a pleasure to be here on Bible study with you guys. I hope you can hear me online as well as on the phone. Everybody can hear me on the phone line?
Yes.
We can definitely hear you.
Loud and clear. Yes, sir.
All right, very
Yes,
good.
sir.
Very good. So as those that don't know, I'm Brother Jediah. I'll be conducting today's Bible study. I have Brother Art with me. Like I say, always, it's a pleasure. And let's open up with our first question.
Peace, brothers.
Peace to you.
Oh, we know who it is.
I got a question if you want to start off with.
Okay, well, tell me what's your name and where you calling from.
All right, well, you know all too well, this is Brother Jacob from Philadelphia.
All right, peace to you, Brother Jacob from Philadelphia. And what's your question?
All right, my question is Leviticus 18,
Uh-huh.
3, 4, and 5. It mentions to not go after the ordinances of Egypt and Canaan. Now, I understand that the Lord wanted to set up Israel after he led Israel out of Egypt. But I just really wanted to know if there was anything specific, like if there was any specific ordinances or any specific understanding that like certain things that they do. Maybe like, I don't know if maybe even head, bar, I don't know. If there's any other specific understanding that maybe, I guess Canaan or Egypt would do that he didn't want us to follow. And we are, for what I understand, I know that Ham, that's the nation of Ham and the Hamites. So if you could give me some insight or understanding on that.
Okay. Go ahead and let's turn to Leviticus 18. And let's start at verse 1. And we'll read your question.
Verse 1.
Yes.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do, and after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments and keep mine ordinances, to walk therein. I am the Lord your God.
Keep reading.
Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them.
All right.
I am the Lord.
And then in the rest of this chapter, he proceeds to deal with the laws of sexuality. But here's really the answer to that. What the Lord does, instead of trying to leave things out there for question, like for example, if he left a blanket statement, don't do what the Egyptians did, don't do what the Canaanites did, well, that's gonna leave for guesswork. So he's really trying to let you know, he's gonna give you the laws. He's gonna give you the laws so that you can understand what it is you can and cannot do. And that's what he was doing throughout the book of Exodus as well as in Leviticus. So it's not so much something particular. They were doing sin. And as we know, and we'll come back here, but let's turn over to James real quick. James chapter 1, if I'm not mistaken. And we're gonna look at this. And because technically That's just period. So it's not like, well, they was all getting tattoos, so we can't get tattoos no more because they was like that. It's not really like that. It's the whole spectrum of what they was doing. He like, y'all ain't about to do that. I want James, I said chapter 1, but I really mean chapter 2. Let's go to James chapter 2, and I want you to start at verse 7. And when you get there, go ahead.
Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by the which ye are called? If ye fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well.
All right, now pay attention to this particular verse in verse 8. It says, if you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, and then it begins to quote a scripture. It says, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, you do well. All right? So now, in quoting that scripture, we're going to see something here, what James was directing us to. Go ahead, keep reading.
But if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgressors.
All right, so look, he's saying, fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, which he sums it up by quoting the law, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. He said, but if you have respect to person, you commit sin. Now, having respect to person is against the commandments, and we should be able to read that in a minute. And so, therefore, he's saying, well, since you having to respect a person, then you're convinced as a you basically sin. Now, watch verse 10.
For whosoever shall keep the whole law, and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all.
So, it's not a one particular thing that the people were doing. They were just living lawless. That's just what it boiled down to. I mean, we can begin to say what they were doing. Were they fornicating? Yes, we can prove that. Were they paying sacrilege to other gods? Yes, we can say that. Were they killing? Yes. Were they stealing? Yes. I mean, basically, we can run down the whole list of commandments. They were living lawless. Now, what the Lord did is, well, let's finish this, and I'm going to show you what the Lord did. Keep reading.
Verse 11.
Uh-huh.
For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill.
So all he's doing here is making a point to say, look, the same person that say do one, say do them all. Go ahead.
Now if thou commit no adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law.
All right, that's good. Now, before we go back to Leviticus 18, let's go to Exodus 19. I want us to read one verse here to kind of show what the Lord was doing with the children of Israel that he wasn't doing with any of the other nations. Exodus 19, and let's start at verse 4. We'll read 4 through 6.
Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself.
Uh-huh.
Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
So notice what he's doing. He's saying he's making this nation a peculiar treasure. Okay, keep reading.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests.
And he's saying that I'm making this nation a kingdom of priests. Whereas any nation prior to this, he wasn't dealing with them like that. All right. So this definitely not the Canaanites and the Amor, all the other nations that was in there. Okay. Let's turn to Deuteronomy 7:1 real quick, and then we're gonna go back to Leviticus. Deuteronomy 7:1. I think that's what I want. Yeah, we probably can get any of that, but yeah, let's go to Deuteronomy 7:1. That's outside there.
Let's see what's I act when the captain get out.
Okay, hold on 1 second, please. But we're going to Deuteronomy 7:1.
When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and have cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them, that thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son.
Go ahead.
For they will turn away thy sons from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly.
Go ahead.
But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars.
So we seeing here that they had altars down there. What else?
Ye shall destroy their altars and break down their images.
Right, and these things weren't altars to God nor images that God allowed. Go ahead.
And cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
Right, so it's not so much that the Lord is saying, don't, well, don't do this particular, don't do that particular, that they were doing. He's really saying, hey, look, they don't have no, see, the Lord didn't give his commandments to anybody else. So it's not one particular thing that they were doing that God was against. It was them as a nation. Now, with Sodom and Gomorrah, we can say, well, they was down there being homosexual. So the Lord say, well, I'm going to kill them for that. And that could very well be the case. That's what I read. That's my comprehension of it. But regardless, in this case, he's destroying a greater nation in size than Sodom and Gomorrah and replacing them with the children of Israel, which really, if you got understanding, that's just the course of how it was supposed to be from day one. But let's go back to this Leviticus chapter 18, and we'll read a little more here. And we'll pick it back up at 3, but then we're going to jump a little further into the chapter. And that's a good thing when you have questions. And of course, we love your questions, so we're not saying don't ask them. But you can't always wait to Bible study sometimes. Sometimes you need your question answered right away. One thing that really does help is to continue to read the chapter prior, the whole chapter, and the following chapter. Now, all that might not be necessary, but quite often that will help the situation of, the answer sometimes is there. And we're going to read a little more into this chapter as well as maybe even some of the next. But go ahead and pick it up at 3 again. Leviticus 18 and 3.
After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do.
And we just seen you can't marry their daughters. You got to destroy their images. They altars. Really, he wanted you to kill them all. That's really what he was saying, because these people didn't know how to serve him. Well, go ahead.
Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments and keep mine ordinances to walk therein. I am the Lord your God.
All right, now let's jump down to verse 24.
Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you.
Now, I guess we can say, to be more specific to what your question is, that in this particular chapter, he discussed with us a law for, again, sexuality. Man can't sleep with his mama. Man can't sleep with his sister. Man can't sleep with another man. So on and so forth. And then, man can't sleep with animals. Then he said, well, don't defile yourselves in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. So then we can conclude by reading that verse that this is some of the things that they were doing. But we also saw in Deuteronomy that they had false, they had altars up. So really, there's not one specific thing. But again, the Lord is giving his law. And when he gave his law, he like, look, these are some of the things that they were doing that he took note of. Make sure you don't do them. Go ahead, keep reading us.
And the land is defiled. Therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it. And the land itself vomiteth out her inhabitants.
So he's saying, look, I'm visiting the iniquity upon this people because of the things that they've done. And I would bet, I would bet money. So that's saying that I'm taking a fair, educated guess that these were probably some of the things that pissed the Lord off, because we see, again, looking at Sodom and Gomorrah, how they were conducting themselves when them angels came down. They wanted to sleep with the men, you know, because, and it's funny because I was on Facebook one time and somebody tried to say that the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah wasn't homosexuality. But if you pay that some attention, if you pay that bit of story some attention, when Abraham was talking to the Lord, they was like, well, let's go down there and see. That's what they were saying. Let's go see. And when they got there, the men tried to sleep with the two angels. So what else did they need to see? You know, that's kind of what's going on, because people be trying to, I don't know, man. I don't know why people be trying to excuse homosexuality like it's some type of sickness or something. It's a sickness, all right, but it's not one that, you know, it ain't like catching a cold. But at any rate,
It's a spiritual sickness.
yeah, man. Like I said, it ain't like catching the cold, because if that's the case, we plagued around this place and everybody end up gay, because it's too many right now. But it says we seen one on the way here anyway. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, my goodness, we can't even go outside without seeing. Boy, it's sick. I seen 3 today. That's how many I seen. I bet money you can count how many you see a day. And if you go over here into the scriptures, like looking at, before we finish this chapter, let's look over here at verse. Let's see. Thou shalt not uncover. Let's see. Neither should I take a wife. I know it's in here. Verse 22.
Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. And neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion.
That's crazy how he put that out there. Like, when I say it's crazy, it's because as I study the scriptures, I begin to comprehend that a lot of times when he's talking about sexual immoralities, like, for example, it says, thou shalt not lie down with mankind as with womankind. It didn't say, thou shalt not lie down, you know, a woman shouldn't lie down with another woman like a man. Because that's not even really possible, to be honest. But then in the next verse it says, neither shall thou lie with any beast to defile thyself. So it's still talking to the man. Then he says, neither shall any woman stand before a beast. Like, I don't want it either way. I just make sure there ain't no confusion. I don't want, like you said, it is confusion. So to make sure there ain't no confusion, men, you can't sleep with the pigs, and women, you can't sleep with the dogs. Like that's a no-no. And he put all that in the same perspective of being gay. Right. So then he says, defile not yourselves in any of these things, for in all these things the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. The land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomit out her inhabitants. Go ahead, 26.
Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled.
Right, so notice, it's telling you, but like I'm sure they ate pork too, though. Right. So it's not specific to just this particular chapter, but I would guarantee you that they ain't have no sexual morality law. And that's what I would say about this chapter. This is, sexual morality. Like, this is what you can and can't do. You know what I mean? So obviously they would just, run them up. They was doing whatever, sleeping with whatever walked through the door. But go ahead, keep reading.
That the land spew not you out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any of these abominable customs which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the Lord your God.
All right, that's good. So that's good with that. But hopefully that cleared up. So, specifically to this chapter, we can say that he was in reference to their sexual immoralities. But I would definitely dare to venture that they did everything. They were lawless. And so when you lawless, you do whatever. It's just like, nah, we lawless now. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't nothing to steal. It ain't nothing to lie. It ain't nothing to commit adultery, fornicate. Honor your mother and your father, my God. Covet. Shoot, what other commandments is it? Then take the Lord's name in vain. Oh man, we more guilty of that than anybody else. And then you know, the Sabbath and like we lawless. Like when you walk outside and you look at the world is lawless. So yeah, we can pinpoint one thing that might piss you off more. Like it pissed me off. Homosexuality pisses me off. The thief really don't piss me off. When a man rob a bank, I ain't really that mad. Nobody's hurt. I mean, you know, hopefully nobody hurt. And if that's the case, that's another story. But I mean, man rob a bank, I ain't really that mad. Maybe we find him, he put the money back. You know, I mean, harm, it is a little, I mean, you ain't supposed to steal, but, you know, no harm, no foul. I can tell you in Proverbs, do a man despise a thief to satisfy a soul. Like, you know, it is still levels to what you're doing. Like, if you commit adultery, you can't take that back. If you kill somebody, that don't go back either. It's not like we can put the breath of life back in you, you know. Whereas even if you lie, which, you know, that's one that's ugly too. But even if you lie, you can come back and say, I lied. You know what I mean? But you can't, you commit adultery, so some sins, you can't take them back. And so they gonna weigh a little heavier, and not to say that they gonna weigh heavier in that, because we read sin is sin. If you sinning, if you just eating pork your whole life, you still a sinner. Even if you never killed, you never lied, you never committed adultery, you just ate swine and went to church every Sunday, you're still a sinner. You know what I mean? So it's not that, but at the same time, it's some things that the Lord gonna look at. As a matter of fact, let's prove that. Let's go over here to John, 1 John, I think. It's where it say there is a sin unto death. You know exactly where that is?
It's from 1 John.
Yeah. It's that I done got lazy, so I just typed it up instead of scrolling through my pages. All right, 1 John 5. Yeah, that's that I done got lazy. 1 John chapter 5. And just to know, and it's not excusing anybody's sin. Because like he said, you know, you're going to have respect the person, you know, but you don't kill, you still guilty. Because the same person said do them all. But then at the same time, it's still levels though. You know, it's still things that you doing. Like I say, if you sleep with somebody's wife, bro, ain't no ransom for that. Ain't no if let's say you stole the church money, you can give the church their money back. You done stole $10,000 worth of church money, you can get their money back plus some. You know, and everybody gonna be like, dang, you ain't had to steal, bro. You know, you might have your reason or whatever, but at least you can give it back, and everything can be like it was before the day you did that. Short of the fact that people might not trust you. But if you sleep with somebody's wife, man, it's over with. It's nothing you can do. And Proverbs speaks of that. It's nothing you can do. So it is still levels to it. And so I'm sure that certain things God look at and he like, man, yo, I can't take this. And that's what we saw in the scene with Sodom and Gomorrah. But 1 John chapter 5, and let's pick this up at verse 14.
And this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he heareth us. And if we know that he heareth us, whatsoever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we desired of him.
Go ahead.
If any man see his brother sin a sin which is not unto death.
So notice what it's showing you here. If any man see his brother sin a sin that's not unto death. So that's telling you right there, some sin we kill you over, some sin we don't. Go ahead.
He shall ask, and he shall give him life for them that sin not unto death. There is a sin unto death. I do not say that ye shall pray for it. All unrighteousness is sin, and there is a sin not unto death.
Right, so he's showing you all unrighteousness is still sin, but but there is a sin unto death. There is some things you can do that's detrimental to your health. And you want to know what one of those sins was unto death? Not keeping the Sabbath or defiling the Sabbath, breaking the Sabbath. That was a sin unto death. So that was just like committing adultery got you killed, defiling the Sabbath got you killed. And that's something to think about, because we take that Sabbath day lightly. Like, if something come up, we good. We can go do it. Whether it be, I got to work for whatever reasons, taking the faith out of the hand, taking the power out of God's hand, putting it in yours. Whether this is my only time my son going to graduate, to the funerals, to the weddings, to whatever the case it is, we find a way to get out the Sabbath when they was getting stoned for it. Just something to think about. But Brother Jacob, I hope that helped you with your question this evening.
Yes, it did. Thank you, bro. So, an ultimate summary is basically like, it's about a nation being unrighteous and lawless, and God trying to set up a nation that is righteous with laws. So that's what you gave me with the understanding in the scripture. Thank you, bro.
Man, praise the Lord. Yeah, and with that, because he was like, this is your righteousness in the sight, this is your wisdom in the sight of all the other nations. This is what he was trying. The
Right.
Lord was setting Israel up on high, not just to have them there and they living fat on hog on the hill, but to show the rest of the world that if you serve me, these are the things that I can do for you. Like in that Deuteronomy 28, we always look at the curses, and rightfully so because we're under the curses. But the first quarter of that chapter deals with the blessings that he's going to give Israel if they keep the commandments. But it wasn't because he just personally liked Israel over anybody else. It was more to show the world that I can create this nation and give them righteous statutes and judgments, and you can do what they do and obtain your salvation. So, but yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully you got some understanding with that.
Thank you, bro.
Praise the Lord. All right, we got any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
All right, sis, you can tell me what's your name, even though I know it, and where you calling from.
This is Sister Cheryl from Dallas.
All right, Sister Cheryl, Dallas. What you got
Okay, my question is Deuteronomy 21
All right. We in that law today.
and verse. Actually, it's verse 6, but it would help if it started at verse 5.
All right. So you know we're gonna start at 5, and we'll read 5 and 6. But we'll probably end up going to verse 1, just so we can kind of build into it, and probably just looking at the subtitle, I can kind of get an understanding just because I'm kind of familiar with what's going on here. But we'll look at all this and we'll see where we go from here. So let's start at Deuteronomy chapter 21, and we'll read verse 5 and 6. When you get there, go ahead.
And the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come near. For them the Lord thy God hath chosen to minister unto him and to bless in the name of the Lord. And by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley.
Okay, so specifically, before we get into this, what is your question here? Or is it just, you're just trying to get clarity on it?
Well, actually, it kind of brings to mind Matthew 27 and verse 24, where Pilate is washing his hands. Now, was he not familiar with Israel's laws as far as that goes?
I doubt it. Okay, so
because when I read this about the washing of the hands and how he washed his hands and said he washed his hands of this innocent blood, was that just something they did in the land, period? Whether it be Jerusalem or Rome, to more or less cure themselves or something like that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I can't tell you which came first. It's kind of like saying which came first, the chicken or the egg. Like, I don't know which really we know the chicken did, but the saying. But the saying, like, I don't know if it came from Israel when they decided to wash their hands or something. Because we can even say that today, you know. Or if that was something that was done, you know, to say it's off of me. You know, if that was a way of saying, you know, this off of me, my hands is clean of that. But we're gonna look at it. We're gonna look at some scriptures. We're gonna look at some scriptures, kind of, to just kind of help us figure this out a little bit. But let's go back to Deuteronomy 21. We'll start at verse 1. We'll look at Matthew 27 as well, where Pilate says that. And it's funny too because my Bible has the, you know how they had a little reference scriptures, and they put that in there. as well. But
Right,
sometimes they
right.
don't be right though. Sometimes they don't have nothing to do with it, even though it might even sound like saying the same thing. Oftentimes these people don't know, because we know that the Bible tells us that to the learn, which we're gonna assume that that's what the people who publishing these Bibles, that they're learn. It say that the book is sealed to them. So I remember I had a Ryrie Bible, RIE or something, I think, but it's a Ryrie. It's supposed to be a good study Bible or whatever. And when I was first getting the Word, I got that Bible from my grandfather, and it had that Daniel chapter 9, and you know Daniel chapter 9 is a chapter where it discusses the 70 weeks of Daniel and how long the children of Israel will be in captivity. And but under their their commentary, they had that this chapter was discussing the abomination of desolation and the great tribulation. And this is where a lot of people get that 7-year theory of the tribulation period from. And they had a big half the page of the Bible was occupied with their commentary. And I remember taking a black marker and just lining through the whole thing. I didn't want to see it no more, how wrong it was. Yeah, so sometimes they don't even know what they're talking about. But we'll see if if one has something to do with the other here in this Deuteronomy 21. So when you get there, Art, can you pick it up in verse 1?
If one be found slain in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it, lying in the field, and it be not known who hath slain him.
So we found somebody dead. Like, we found somebody dead. We out here in the Philadelphia area, but we in one of the suburbs. So, we in where are we? Lansdowne. There we go. Thank you. So we in Lansdowne. So we outside and we see somebody in Lansdowne and they dead. Go ahead.
Then thy elders and thy judges shall come forth.
So when it say thy elders and thy judges, it's saying the ones that's around here. Go ahead.
And they shall measure unto the cities which are round about him that is slain. And it shall be that the city which is next unto the slain man, even the elders of that city, shall take an heifer.
So now what they doing is, so we going to go from here and we going to go over to the next city, because there's a lot of little cities set up in Israel. And we're supposed to have elders in all these cities. And it says, and it should be that city which is next unto the slain man. So, I guess we could say Darby. So we'll go over to Darby. Go ahead. Middle of 3. I'm sorry. Even the elders. I'll do. Even the elders of that city should take a heifer. Go ahead.
Which have not been wrought with, and which have not drawn in the yoke. And the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer into a rough valley, which is neither eared nor sown, and shall strike off the heifer's neck there in the valley. And the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come near. For them the Lord thy God hath chosen to minister unto him and to bless in the name of the Lord. And by their words shall every controversy and every stroke be tried.
All right, so I like that. So what he's doing is he's establishing this government in the land, the way that they rule themselves. He clearing everything. So you find a man dead, you don't know who did it or what. So he said, well, the elders gonna come, and then they gonna go. Then the elders gonna come forth, and they gonna measure the city where they found them slain. Then they gonna go out to the next city, and they gonna go get them elders like a witness. Like, all right, we ain't just into some conspiracy here. The elders of that city should bring down, or that next city should bring down the heifer into a rough valley, which is neither eared nor sown, and should strike off the heifer's neck there in that valley. So what we doing is we shedding some blood for this man. Go ahead.
Verse 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Read 5 again.
5. And the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come near. For them the Lord thy God hath chosen to minister unto him, and to bless in the name of the Lord. And by their words shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. And they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it.
So basically, and I guess this is basically a way of saying we ain't got nothing to do with this. The people that seen the body, don't nobody know. Everybody's getting the blood off their hands. We don't know what happened here. Go ahead.
Be merciful, O Lord.
And now they petitioning the Lord because blood has been shed on the land. When blood has been shed, the ground is defiled, and this is holy ground. Israel is the Lord's land. So now it's like we praying to the Lord, be merciful, O Lord. Go ahead.
Unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, And lay not innocent blood unto thy people of Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them. So shalt thou put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord.
Right. So basically, he gave us an ordinance to do if we happen to come up upon a man that's found dead in the field, and don't none of us got nothing to do with it. Now, and when it says here, they shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. So I'm going to assume that they literally wash their hands in respect to saying, I'm going to wash my hands of the situation. But really what they're ultimately doing, our hands have not shed this blood, verse 7, neither have our eyes seen it. Then he says, be merciful, O Lord, unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and lay not innocent blood unto thy people Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them. So what we're looking at is we getting the blood off of you, and we're going to see that somewhere else. And what's most important for us to gather from this, although your question, Sister Cheryl, is a great question. And when I say that, because the similarities to what Pilate is doing and what was done there, they're there, but we're not going to assume that Pilate was paying respect to Israel's law like that. Like, it wasn't like he was, in their law books, well, let me clear myself of their guilt. Because he don't care. Like, he don't care if how they feel about it. And we're going to see that. So let's go here to, we're going to go to Matthew 27. And we're going to pick it up actually at 11, and we're going to read into it. So Matthew 27 and verse 11. When you get there, go ahead.
And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, thou sayest.
That's right. Go ahead.
And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee?
All right, now notice. Let's just let's look up. Let's look up a little bit. So let's go up to verse 1. We're gonna go to verse 1 so we can kind of get where we are. Go ahead.
When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death.
So what's going on before they bring him to Pilate is he's around the priest and whatnot, and they ready to kill him. Go ahead.
And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor.
All right. Now, in between there, Judas start tripping. Like, oh, man, I ain't know. I messed up. I shouldn't have did this, whatever. So verse 11.
And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him to never a word, and so much that the governor marveled greatly.
Yeah, this is crazy. So he when Pilate came to him, he was like, well, you say it. You king of the Jews? That's what you say. But then when the elders and the priests would talk to him, he wasn't saying nothing. And that's because he was dealing with them on a regular. So, he's looking at it like, you ain't got nothing to accuse me of, really. But he just ain't saying nothing. Like he said, he pleading the fifth. And Pilate like, man, this dude ain't going to defend his, he ain't going to say nothing. But go ahead, verse 15.
Now at that feast, the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would.
All right, so basically, to keep the people happy, and that's the only reason. When the feast would come, and it's not like Pilate was looking into their books to see when the feast would come. Israel been keeping the feast. Like, we've been keeping, look, we keep the feast now. So, I mean, that's one thing every Israelite community that I've ever known of, the one thing they're going to do is feast. So, make it so bad, we feast so much, we make up feasts and try to make them biblical. So, we still was going to feast. So Pilate didn't have to question, is it feast time? He already know. The city all he doing is governing the city. The law of the city is based off of how we structure it, meaning how the Jews structured it at that time. As long as we pay Pilate or Rome its tribute, then we pretty much was there capable of being in Jerusalem and all the other cities, governing ourselves based off of our priest, and that's what went on. So they knew when the feast was, and Pilate would say, okay, when the feast come, I'm going let one of y'all prisoners go. Okay, verse 16.
And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ?
Right, so he's saying, which one y'all want free then? You want Barabbas, or do you want Jesus, the one that y'all done anointed to be king? That's really what he said when he said which is called Christ. A lot of people really miss what Christ means when you say Jesus Christ, because we look at it like that's his last name or something, but that's not what Christ is. Christ is just it means Messiah or the anointed one, and that's what you did to your kings and your priests. You anointed them. So he like Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ. Go ahead.
For he knew that for envy they had delivered him.
Right, because he's like, even when he said which is called Christ, like he playing with the elders of the city, like, because he ruled over all of them. And he knew, well, y'all just hating on this man. Like, Pilate knew this already, but he doesn't care. And when we say he doesn't care, like, y'all govern yourself, basically. Just make sure you pay tribute to Pilate. Go ahead.
When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him.
So I guess she woke up that morning and was like, yo, and that's amazing when you really comprehend what she just said to Pilate. She like, man, she said this. She been having dreams. These weren't dreams weeks ago, and this was tonight. And she like, have nothing to do with this just man. Like, she called him just, as if God showed her in a dream. I suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. Go ahead.
But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus.
So notice all this falls on the people. So watch what Pilate is going to do. Go ahead.
The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all said unto him, Let him be crucified.
Well, go ahead.
And the governor said, Why? What evil have he done?
See, Pilate had heard his wife too. He want to know, like, why is we doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you got the right, but I want to know. I want to know why I'm about to execute this man, because the execution going to fall on me. And my wife done came to me and said, this man is just, and I don't need to have nothing to do with it. So before I want to know what's going on. Go ahead.
But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children.
Man, that one of the world's dumbest statement. But at any rate, though, so yes, we can say the similarities are definitely there. And the washing of your hands to get the blood off, like washing your hands saying, I ain't got nothing to do with this. It's as symbolic as even the baptism. But yet the same, to answer your question, I don't know if he got this from Israelite custom, or if Israelite custom carried through, or if this was just a custom period that the Lord adopted into the law, saying this is a way that you symbolically showing that the blood is, that you didn't have nothing to do with this man's blood in Deuteronomy. There's nothing historically in the Bible to help us prove one to the other. But what we do understand is that they are basically doing the same thing. Pilate is saying, I ain't got nothing to do with this. My hands is clean. And the same thing in Deuteronomy, they're saying we ain't had nothing to do with this murder that already took place. Our hands are clean. But I couldn't answer to say if one came from the other. But, which is, and to be honest, I doubt. But then, I shouldn't even doubt. I don't know. Because I don't know if a Hebrew custom traveled through the land, because you got to realize the Lord said, this is your wisdom in the sight of the nations. So maybe the rest of the world began to, pick up some of the customs that we did. Could be not, but it's not really enough information for us to say. We would be speculating. But what I do want us to do is let's turn to Ezekiel, and it's either 33 or chapter 3. And I just want to show us another case 33? Yeah, that's what I'm headed. Where you getting the blood off your hands in a different capacity. Yeah, Ezekiel 33. Ezekiel 33. And this is in a different capacity, but it still holds even greater relevance, really, to me, than what we saw in Deuteronomy, but a lesson from Deuteronomy, meaning Deuteronomy is showing us that the Lord is going to hold you responsible if you don't take action upon somebody that's dead. And he's going to hold that blood. Just like in with Cain and Abel, the Lord said, you know, Abel's blood cries out from the ground. So it's like, you know, he want to know if somebody murdered, which is one of the 10 Commandments, like somebody is going to take ownership for this. You know, that's what he's, and if nobody does physically in the physical realm, because we don't know who did it, you know, then, hey, y'all better get this off your hands, okay? Now, let's look at Ezekiel chapter 33, and let's pick this up at verse 1. And we're going to read this, and we're going to see another case where you're getting blood off your hands. But a different set of scenario, scenario, but one that I feel is most relevant to this. Go ahead, though. Ezekiel 33 and 1.
Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast and set him for their watchman, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head.
All right, so what he's saying so far with that is, look, if you've been warned about something that you're doing, then your blood is on your own hand, meaning your death is on your own hand. That's really what he just said. Go ahead, because they dead. Go ahead.
He heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning.
Right.
His blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul.
That's right. So he's saying, but the one that took warning to the trumpet and to the watchman, they delivering their soul. Go ahead.
But if the watchman see the sword come and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand.
So now what he's saying to the watchman, which is scary, he's like, look, if you don't tell these people that they doing wrong, that his blood, because now I done killed them, and that blood will I require at the watchman's hand. So, you know, in retrospect to some of the things that we've been reading, and we saw in Deuteronomy how they got the blood off their hand because they washed their hands because they found a man dead. You don't want to be responsible. You don't want to be responsible for nobody's death. That's really what we're getting at. You don't want the cause of death. You could have did something and didn't, or you know, you don't want to have no responsibility. You need to get the blood off your hand. Go ahead.
So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word at my mouth, and warn them from me. When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die. If thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand.
Right, so you're going to be responsible for that. That's why I look at a lot of these false prophets, and I'm like, I can understand how when you see Romans chapter 1, and we was discussing this past weekend in North Carolina, when you see Romans chapter 1 and it shows the reprobate mind and how we most oftentimes lay that chapter to our false prophets, and somebody asked me, well, can they repent? And only the Lord knows the heart. But I can understand why the Lord is turning a lot of them over to a reprobate mind, because they blood. You done took too many people with you now. You know, I look at Eddie Long down in Atlanta, and I speak on him because I bear witness. I sat as a member at his church at a younger age and bear witness to his works and his words, and he was a liar. I found him a liar myself. You know, I think it was in 95. That's when I realized he was a liar, 1995, because you made a statement in 95. No, in 96, that's when I found out him to be a liar. Because you made a statement in 95, and in 96, I looked for it to come to pass, and you was lying. And that was it. I was done with church after that. I was like, I'll never go back to a Sunday church again because these dudes, they be lying. But I look at him, and he's dead now. And I'm like, and as he traveled down his path from that point, it came out. I discovered maybe around 1999, 2000 that he was gay. Like this was like a rumor in the town, and a rumor based off of evidence, but nothing had been proven, so we couldn't say. But then maybe 10 years later or so, it comes out in the papers that he was, dealing with young men, not little boys, but young men, 19, 20 years old, and it never came out to what degree, but to the measure that it came out, it showed he was sending them, pictures of his body and, being sexual with them. And that, that's gay. Like, I don't, that's gay. So, and then from that path, all of a sudden he turned real sick, skinny, and died. Now, I look at Romans 1 when it talks about these men who knew God and their knowledge but didn't acknowledge him as being God, so on and so forth, and he turned them over to reprobate minds. Like, looking at this chapter, Ezekiel 33, and comprehending that you were set as a watchman. I mean, I'd have heard this man come to church and say, I came to deliver you from the curses. I didn't even know what the curses was at the time. Like, you mean to tell me that Eddie Long knew Deuteronomy 28 or Leviticus 27, 26, whatever he knew, and he came, instead of informing us that curses exist, he didn't even tell us what they was. He said, I came to deliver you from them. Like, this dude was a watchman who got a lot of blood on his hand. And he got an answer for that. And when I say he got an answer for it, I don't know how Judgment Day gonna be. But if I had to put money on it, I would assume that when you start talking about, the watchman and blood on your hands, like, that's gonna be required of you. Like, hey, well, what about all these people you sent to hell with this antic and with that antic? So therefore, when I read this passage, and we're gonna go back to Ezekiel 33 and 8. We'll pick it up at 8.
When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die. If thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity. But his blood will I require at thine hand.
Yeah, see, I take that all the way to judgment. He gonna require that blood at your hand. Keep going.
Nevertheless, if thou warn the wicked of his way to turn from it, if he do not turn from his way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul.
Keep going.
Therefore, O thou son of man, speak unto the house of Israel. Thus she speaks, saying, if our transgressions and our sins be upon us, and we pine away in them, how shall we then live?
Go ahead.
Say unto them, as I live, saith the Lord God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn ye from your evil ways, for why will ye die, O house of Israel?
That's good. So the moral of all that is, we see the importance of getting the blood off your hand, and we see it to a whole nother spiritual level when we look at this Ezekiel 33, which in this case is far more important than the physical evidence that we saw in Deuteronomy and in Matthew, because I mean, if I find a dead body in the field now and don't know how I got there, I mean, we're not gonna take the protocol that Deuteronomy said. I mean, I'm not about to go to the next town over or whatever and be like, we gonna go get a heifer, and we're not gonna do none of those things. But to answer your question, I have no earthly idea if Pilate really knew the Israelite law or custom of washing his hands, or if that was just a tradition that was carried out. I'm gonna wash my hands of this. I ain't got nothing to do with it, which is really something that we say today. But then again, I don't even know if we picked that up from them. So, Sister Cheryl, I appreciate you for bringing that subject to light, but I don't have the answer to your question. But I hope I helped you maybe understand the two passages better.
Kind of like prophecy.
You did.
Praise the Lord. Say that again.
Yes,
Kind
we
of
did.
like prophecy. Jesus low key.
What you at that verse 8?
Verse 8.
Yeah. Let's look at that. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 21. Art was saying something that made a lot of sense, and it's not really. Still, it's not giving us it's not still giving us your answer, but it's still giving us just maybe even more understanding of what we saw take place. And we finished reading. Let's go back to verse 7. You saw that at 8, right? Yeah. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 21 and 7.
And they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it.
All right, so we back in reference to the dead man in the field. Okay, go ahead.
Be merciful, O Lord, unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and lay not innocent blood unto thy people of Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them.
Keep reading.
So shalt thou put away the guilt of innocent blood from among you, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord.
So we can say that Pilate, and what some art was bringing to my attention, that's like prophecy, because we can say that Pilate really is guiltless of the death of Jesus, and that the death of Jesus is on the children of Israel, and it is. Even though Pilate was the executioner, but he like, hey, I ain't got nothing to do with this. This on y'all. But they had to have his permission, which obviously they was given. You know, I don't know. You know, I guess if I was Pilate, me, Jediah was Pilate, I would have said, y'all done lost y'all mind, y'all ain't gonna kill him. You know what I mean? So, you know, I guess Pilate could have did that, but he had no vested interest. So, you know, it's just something to think about. You know, would the Lord hold that to his charge? Probably not that death. I'm sure he got plenty to hold to Pilate's charge than to have to worry about the death of Jesus, because we saw who that goes on. That is going to fall on the hands of us and the people who did it and their children. And it has fallen on us, and we are paying for it to this day. So, Sister Cheryl, like I said, you know, some questions, shoot, I don't know. We had to wait till we meet the Lord to get the answer, because I don't think that's something you're going to really find in the Bible. You know, you might find it historically somewhere that, you know, Rome adopted Hebrew customs, but even then, that's not going to give you the direct answer, because we wouldn't know what customs. So, you know, some questions, as great as they are, because that was a good one, you just got to wait till the Lord show us personally.
Okay.
Yep. But I hope you got a little more understanding of what we read.
Don't you think the Lord may have, and he may or may not have, given that dream to Pilate's wife?
Oh yeah, I definitely think the Lord did. I definitely think the Lord did. I don't think that's random. That the same night, like it was specific in saying this day, like tonight, which is the night that it all went down. All of a sudden, she having a dream about Jesus, and that he a just man. Like, but what that dream did was allow Pilate to clear himself of guilt, which, if we look in the scriptures, we had to kill him, not Pilate. Like, his death had to be on us. Let's see if I can find that. I mean, even when you look at the Passover, and you see that the whole congregation, and that's where he turned it, so I'm gonna turn there instead of where I was going. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 12 or 13. I'll know when I get there. Yeah, Exodus 12. Yeah. So we're gonna go to Exodus chapter 12. So your question here is, do I think that dream was from the Lord? And I say yes, I do. I don't see how. I definitely wouldn't say it was from the devil. And I don't see how it was just a random thought in her mind, because all the Bible tells me about dreams is that sometime in the multitude of business they come, or the Lord can give them to you. So, you know, it's two reasons the Bible give on how we have our dreams. And I don't see how she had a multitude of business dealing with Jesus the same night that they about to bring him. I mean, she woke up and said, don't do this, husband. But looking at the Passover, which we understand Jesus is our Passover, pick it up in Exodus 12 and 1. Pick it up, Exodus 12 and 1.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Go ahead.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, And the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Now this lamb is the Passover lamb that we're reading about, and it's a representation of Jesus. Go ahead.
And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
So notice what it's saying. The assembly of the congregation of Israel was supposed to kill this lamb. So when we look at what happened with Jesus and him being this lamb that we're looking at in prophecy, a representation of him, Israel had to kill him, not Pilate. So Pilate is clear of the death of Jesus, and that death falls on the children of Israel. So yeah, that's something just to look at when we say, well, what, why is you having this dream? The Lord is just making it where it's 100% clear that this ain't on Pilate. So hopefully that help just get some type of understanding on all this.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Thank you for the extra verses. That really helped.
Oh, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Yeah, that's what we do when we don't have your answer. we just start reading some more stuff. We just read anything that sounds like it, and then hopefully we come close. Yeah. All right, sis. Well, do we got any other questions, brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do.
All right. Call and state your name and where are you calling from?
Rochester, New York, Brother John.
Brother John.
Uh-huh.
All right, from Rochester. All right. Go ahead.
Right.
What you got for me, Brother John?
Well, I was trying to figure out something. Like when people have funerals in the church, right?
Funerals in the church? Uh-huh.
Funerals not supposed to be inside the sanctuary. Is that right?
Funerals in the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is that your question?
Well, yeah.
Okay. That's your question, though? Should you have funerals in the sanctuary? Okay. All right. No, to answer your question, no. But here's the thing on that. There are a few things that you said that we take for granted. Number one, you said funerals in the sanctuary. All right. So now we got to look at sanctuary. Number two, you're taking a tradition that churches do, and see, I don't respect the building of a church. So technically, I don't care what y'all do. And when I say that, I'm saying to these monuments that I observed, with these crosses on top of them and these steeples and stuff or whatever, like that, I call it a church because you call it a church, but that ain't no church to me. So that's something that, so I don't really care that you doing a funeral at such and such Baptist church or such, like, I could care less what you doing there. Y'all the congregation of the dead anyway. So it's just the dead burying the dead. So that never bothers me for them to have a funeral at a church. I mean, and furthermore, if somebody in my family were to pass and the funeral was at their prospective churches, like my aunt's was last year. She had her funeral at a church in Detroit, suburb of Detroit. Now, had it been an Israelite congregation, I would not have went. And I will show you why. We'll get into that in a little bit. But being that it's at a pagan church, I can care less what y'all doing there. Yeah, I'll go. Now, me, when my father passed, we had the service at the funeral home. It was no question of what, I could have had it at my church that I grew up at. I could have did that. They would have did it for free. They would have did the whole thing, you know, whatever. Because, you know, because technically, I guess on record, I'm still a member. But really, because my family still go there. So therefore, they would have did it. But, you know, I'm going to do it at the funeral parlor because that's just what I'm going to do. But I don't see the sanctuary as what they call the sanctuary. So let's look at that. So let's go to Hebrews chapter 9 first. And I want to show you what the sanctuary is. And then before, and after that, we'll look at just the dead body thing. All right. All right. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go to Hebrews 9. Hebrews 9. Mm-hmm. And we'll pick it up in verse 1. And what we're doing first is we're going to define the sanctuary. Because it was a lot of stuff that couldn't go on in the sanctuary. All right. Oh. So pick it up in Hebrews 9 and pick it up in verse 1. And when you get there, go ahead.
Then verily, the first covenant had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary.
All right, so here we go. We're picking up the word sanctuary. Now, I could have did this in Exodus, but we would have been there a lot of places breaking down what the sanctuary is. This is the best summary of what the sanctuary is that I've read, that I see so far. So it said that under the first covenant, meaning under the Old Testament or the Old Covenant or the priesthood, we had divine services, and meaning we had like different rituals that we read one today in Deuteronomy 21 when you would kill the heifer, wash your hand over. That was a divine service, and we had a worldly sanctuary, meaning we had a sanctuary here on earth. Go ahead.
For there was a tabernacle made, the first, wherein was the candlestick, and the table, and the showbread, which is called the sanctuary.
So now we seeing that the sanctuary was where the tabernacle, where the candlestick and the showbread, and also, more importantly there, go ahead.
And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all.
Right, so now this is where a certain sacrifice took place once a year. So this is the sanctuary, meaning if we were in the land and the priest had a tent set up, just a regular tent, or maybe he was under the trees or something, it don't matter. That's not the sanctuary. Even though we might gather there with the priest every Saturday and even begin to make sure we got some stools and chairs out there or whatever, that's not the sanctuary. The sanctuary was a specific place where you had showbread, a veil, the second veil, you had the Ark of the Covenant. Let's see what else was there. Go ahead, verse 4.
Which had the golden censer and the Ark of the Covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. And over it the cherubims of glory, shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly.
Okay, so this was the sanctuary. There is no, now we call church the sanctuary, because now sanctuary has a few different definitions, but the sanctuary was this place where you had the Ark of the Covenant. It was in the tent in the tabernacle. This was the sanctuary. It was so detrimental, the rules to the sanctuary, that the priest had to make sure, and let's see if I can find that real quick, that he had to make sure he went up there with his underwear on, if I ain't mistaken, and that should be in Leviticus. You know what that is offhand? Yeah. Leviticus chapter 8, maybe?
It's in Exodus.
It's in Exodus? Okay.
We're talking about the girdle joint.
Yeah. What you say that is, you think?
I believe it's Exodus 33.
All right. Well, let's go over here to Exodus 33. And all through Exodus, you'll be able to find the sanctuary. But we want to look at there's something particular about the sanctuary, and it ain't gonna take.
I forgot what it was called.
It ain't gonna take us long. It's not quite 33. It might be before then. Let me see. One second here.
Breaches.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Breaches.
It's 29.
Give me a second.
Oh, 28.
Exodus 28. I done turned so doggone lazy. I don't even look no more. Exodus 28, and let's see, we're gonna start at verse. We won't have to start at 1.
It's at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's start at verse. I'm skimming through it. That's what. Thou should make a plate of pure gold, holiness. It's all in the sanctuary. Thou should have brought it. Aaron's son should make coats. And thou should make girdles. Okay, yeah. Thou should put them upon Aaron's brother, and they should be. Thou should. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. So we go into the sanctuary now. All right. We saw some of the things that was in the sanctuary in Hebrews 9. Now we're going to actually look at it in Exodus, and we're not going to look at everything, but we are going to start at Exodus chapter 28 and verse 1. Exodus 28 and 1. And then we're going to kind of jump around in here. When you get there, go ahead.
And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. Even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office.
Go ahead.
And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, and an ephod, and a robe, and a broidered coat, a mitre, and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron thy brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office.
And so he's going to get into more detail of all that stuff. All right. Now let's skip down to verse 36. No, before 36, let's go to 35. No, you good. 35.
And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord, and when he cometh out, that he die not.
Okay, so right there, when we start talking about going to the holy place of the Lord, we talking about the sanctuary. All right, go ahead.
And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, engrave upon it like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord.
Right, so this is only in the sanctuary. The sanctuary is very specific. Go ahead.
And thou shalt put it on a blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre. Upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts. And it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework. And for Aaron's sons thou shalt make coats, and thou shalt make for them girdles, and bonnets shalt thou make for them, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, and shalt anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office.
That's why I was saying earlier that kings and priests were anointed. That's what Messiah comes from. But go ahead.
And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness.
So now he's saying, and make sure you get them some underwear. That's what linen breeches are. Go ahead.
From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach.
So it's like boxers. So they didn't have on tighty whities. They had on some boxers. Go ahead.
And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation.
Right, that's the tabernacle of the congregation is where the holy place was, or the sanctuary was. Go ahead.
Or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place.
That's the sanctuary, the holy place.
That they bear not iniquity and die.
Right, so if they didn't have on underwear, you know, when they came into this holy place, then they could get killed for that. They could die for that. And I guess it says, you know, when they performing their things, don't nobody need to see them, you know, they don't need to see nothing. They need to make sure everything good. Now, so the first thing you ask, or the question you ask, can you bring a dead body into the sanctuary? So what I wanted to make sure we understood is what the sanctuary is. And the answer would be absolutely no. Now let's look at more about a dead body. So we're going to go to Numbers chapter 19.
You even had to make noise before you went in there.
Exactly, like the brother was saying. Before you can walk up in the sanctuary, you need to be known. Yeah, I think they had a bell. Yeah, like it's funny. I went somewhere today. They had a bell at the door. I'm trying to close the door all soft, like you ain't gonna hear me, right? You still can hear it. But so the sanctuary is a very specific place. We use the term very lightly. It has taken on a whole new ambiance of a definition because now when we play football and basketball, we be calling that the sanctuary. You know, they be like, yeah, this is our sanctuary or something. Like the word don't mean what it's supposed to mean no more. Specifically, the sanctuary was one place. It wouldn't have been 50,000 sanctuaries all over the place. All right, that's how many football fields we got. All right, so now we're in Numbers 19, and let's pick it up at verse 11. We'll start here, 11.
He that touches the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days.
So here's the thing: if you touch an unclean body, you're unclean for 7 days. So therefore, it's no way possible we bringing him into the sanctuary. But you got to understand, this ain't the sanctuary. So then somebody may say, well, then we could bring a dead body in here. No, because we're not going to defile this place either. You see, and that's what I want us to make sure we comprehend that. Just because I'm not calling this place the sanctuary, we're not about to defile this place. Like, we got other places we can use to deal with the dead. We ain't got to do it where we congregate. Go ahead.
Let me start at 11 again.
Go ahead, 11.
He that touches the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days.
Yes, sir.
He shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day.
So after you touch a dead body, the 3rd day you need to purify yourself. Go ahead.
And on the 7th day he shall be clean. But if he purify not himself the 3rd day, then the 7th day he shall not be clean.
Go ahead.
Whosoever touches the dead body of any man that is dead, and purifieth not himself, defileth the tabernacle of the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from Israel, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. He shall be unclean.
Now, for my biblical scholars, this explains why Mary didn't show up to Jesus to anoint him to Sunday morning. So let's think of this. He was crucified Wednesday evening. All right. Thursday is the unleavened bread. Friday, if I go down there Friday, because that's the preparation, but you might be like, but I mean, I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm finna go and anoint the body or whatever. Well, now I'm unclean for 7 days, making me unclean through the whole feast. But even more importantly, I'm unclean on the Sabbath day, because I can't even go and get partially done till 3 days later from touching a dead body. So it's just something, like I say, for those of us that's really, that be in the book like that, and you want a explanation on why did Mary show up on Sunday? Because that was a question that I used to have, like, why Sunday? Why didn't she just go on Friday? Because we kept saying, well, it's the preparation day, but shoot, I go to work on Friday, so I mean, what's the big deal? But the big deal is Jesus was supposed to be in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights, so he was still in the grave. If she goes down there, now she'll defile herself on the Sabbath. But at any rate, back to what this is saying. Verse 12, he shall purify himself after you touch a dead body with it on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he should be clean. But if he purify not himself the 3rd day, then the 7th day he should not be clean. Verse 13.
Whosoever toucheth the dead body of any man that is dead, and purifieth not himself, defileth the tabernacle of the Lord. And that soul shall be cut off from Israel, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. He shall be unclean. His uncleanness is yet upon him.
So we're going to respect that in our respective churches. That we're not going to, it's just like we ain't going to bring no pork in here. You know what I mean? Like some things we just not going to do. We just going to make sure that we stay clear of that. But at the same time, if somebody died at church, then we just would have to, the church would just be unclean for 7 days. Rather, it ain't like we ain't going to show up. Somebody died, we up here today and I died. Well, they going to still have church here Saturday. It ain't like it's going to not go because, the church has been defiled. God forbid I die today. But go ahead.
This is the law. When a man dieth in a tent, all that come into the tent, and all that is in the tent shall be unclean 7 days. Every open vessel which have no covering bound upon it is unclean. And whosoever toucheth one that is slain with the sword in the open fields, or a dead body, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days.
Go ahead.
And for an unclean person, they shall take of the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin, and running water shall be put thereinto a vessel. And a clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water and sprinkle it upon the tent, and upon all the vessels, and upon the persons that were there, and upon him that touched a bone, or one slain, or one dead, or a grave. And the clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day. And on the 7th day he shall purify himself, and wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean at even.
Go ahead.
But the man that shall be unclean, and shall not purify himself, that soul shall be cut off from among the congregation, because he hath defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. The water of separation have not been sprinkled upon him. He is unclean.
So again, we see here, he's saying, because they had defiled the sanctuary of the Lord, because the sanctuary was amongst them. So it's like, you unclean and you ain't did nothing about it. Not only was the sanctuary amongst them, but God was amongst them. Like, let me show you how specific God is. Let's turn over here to Leviticus 27, I think. Let's see. Let me see. I want to make sure. No, it might not be 27. I'm looking for where he say clean up the dung. Let me see. Just give me one quick second. Let's see.
I think it's 25 somewhere. Let me see.
Can you call it dung?
He said,
Oh, I know shovel.
when you ease yourself among.
Yeah. Let's see. Shovel. Don't he use shovel in that verse?
Paddle.
Paddle. Thank you. I was about to put shovel in there. Like that's gonna really be in the Bible. Oh, it's Deuteronomy 23. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23.
Oh, I thought I was in Deuteronomy. I thought you was.
Nah, I was in Leviticus. Because in Leviticus it tell you that he dwelt among us, but that's not the one I want though. Deuteronomy 23, and pick it up at verse. Pick it up at verse 10. Yeah, verse 10.
If there be among you any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness that chanceth him by night, then shall he go abroad out of the camp. He shall not come within the camp.
So that, I wanted to start there just to show that the Lord didn't want nobody unclean even in the camp. So if somebody got unclean, you had to be outside the camp. And we talking about the camp. The children of Israel were together and basically led by a cloud by day and fire by night. And he's saying basically there was an area that you could be away from everybody else, outside the camp, okay? So he's saying, look, if you got unclean by night, get out the camp. Go ahead.
But it shall be, when evening cometh on, he shall wash himself with water, and when the sun is down, he shall come into the camp again. Thou shalt have a place also without the camp, whither thou shalt go forth abroad.
Right, so he's saying, make sure you got a place outside the camp. Go ahead.
And thou shalt have a paddle upon thy weapon, and it shall be, when thou wilt ease thyself abroad.
So he's saying you need a paddle, like a shovel. And he say, when you ease yourself, I mean, that means use the bathroom. Go ahead.
Thou shalt dig therewith, and shalt turn back and cover that which cometh from thee.
Right, he said, make sure after you use the bathroom, even if you was behind the rock somewhere, you still need to do something. He said you need to turn around and dig that up like how they be trying to have the dogs do. Get that crap off this ground. Go ahead.
For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee.
See, and that's what we're trying to get at. The whole importance of all this cleanliness stuff that we was dealing with then, you got to understand God, Jesus, the one who died on the cross, he was there. And you might say, well, what you mean he was there? Like he was literally there. It said, for the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp. So you might be like, but that's not to be taken literal. Then why is he saying to get the dung out the ground literal? He's literally walking amongst the camp. Now I'm going to show you something Well, finish reading that. Go ahead, finish reading that.
To deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee.
Right. So he's saying, look, I need this whole camp to stay clean. So that's why we ain't got no dead bodies in the sanctuary or even around. Like, and it's rules to uncleanliness, period, when you were in the land. Now I want to show you some, 2 more scriptures, then we'll open back up the floor. Let's go to Hebrews chapter, I just lose my thought. Nope. Hebrews 13. And then we're going to go to Isaiah 24. Hebrews 13. And I want to go here to put in your mind how the Lord could just be walking amongst Israel. And Israel not know it. And today the Lord not going to walk amongst us. We just nasty. And this whole land is defiled, which we're going to read next. But when the Lord put the children of Israel in the land of Israel, he was there amongst us. That was his dwelling place. I would even dare to venture that, you know, from the Lord always dwelt here on earth. Even if you look at the Garden of Eden, he was here. You know, and even when David set up a temple for the Lord, or Solomon, you know, the Lord had somewhere where he could come. Now I don't know how. You know, did he go to sleep there, or did he just come and eat there? You know, that's beyond my pay grade. But we know that the Lord had a place where he put his name, where he called his residence. So when you look at this place here in Hebrews 13, let's read it and let's start at verse 1, and I'm going to show you something here. Go ahead.
Let brotherly love continue.
Uh-huh.
Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares.
Now, he's telling you in verse 2 that sometimes, don't just be dissing the stranger, because you might be entertaining an angel and you don't know it. So you need to be careful how you treat people out there in the streets. Now, with that being said, all I'm trying to show you by showing you this is if today you could entertain an angel via a stranger, then how difficult is it for Jesus to just be walking amongst the children of Israel and they don't know it? You wouldn't know it was an angel when you saw a stranger. So obviously he would appear to just be a random guy, you know. And so with that being said, you had to make sure this place stayed clean. Now let's go to Isaiah 24. Isaiah chapter 24. And we'll look at this and then we'll open it back up. Because at this point, I want us to keep this in mind, because now we begin to really start squinting at gnats sometime. Because we have shown that where we sit today, me and Art, we sitting in church, up here at the church, that this is not the sanctuary. The sanctuary is a specific place that you can read more about from about Exodus 25 till about 31 or so, to about 30, maybe 29. You can read all about the sanctuary. But we went and read the summary of it in Hebrews 9. We also went into Exodus and showed the sanctuary is so specific, you need underwear on when you in there, that you don't die. So by no stretch of the imagination will we bring a dead body in the sanctuary. But furthermore, we don't even bring it amongst our churches, because we don't want to defile our churches with a dead body. This is our place of worship. This is our sanctuary. For a lack of a better word, the new word, you know, the new sanctuary. It's not what it was, but it's still our sanctuary, how they refer to it today. So we don't want to defile it by dead body. We're not going to bring swine up in here. But now, all of a sudden, somebody may say, well, what about the unclean sisters? Well, when you look at that, you got to respect the fact that, you know, if a sister unclean, then so is our whole household, the way we live today. And furthermore, you know, shoot. Let's read this first and we'll get there. So Isaiah 24, and pick it up at verse 4.
The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish.
Why is that?
The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof.
So it's telling you the earth is defiled by the people that live here. So yes, we're going to respect our homes and not bring pork into our homes. We're going to respect this church and not bring dead bodies into this church. But as far as us dealing with a clean and uncleanness law, we ain't going to be telling sisters they can't come to church when the whole land is defiled. Because eventually what's going to happen is it's going to be some Sabbaths where only single brothers are going to be here. And then there ain't no guarantee that you clean. Because ain't no telling you touch your car, but you got in your car to get here, but the girl next door touched your car too. You live in an apartment, she touched your car and she unclean. But now you unclean. Like it's just so it's like contact. Huh?
There's a question online.
Okay. It's like contact or something. You play contact, you know what I'm saying, and all of a sudden, somebody touch you and it's like, well, you it. Well, that's the same thing in respect of being unclean. If I'm unclean and I touch him, now he unclean. So we can't get around. Now then we had a land separating the clean from the unclean. When a woman was unclean, she was separated from her family for a certain amount of days. Even when a woman had a child, her first 7 days, she was separated. And then we started to count of her, before they could deal with their relations. But still, she was technically unclean for about 7 days. Don't mean she did something evil, but she was still unclean. All that being said, this whole land has been defiled. So we're not going to be trying to make it, squinting at gnats, trying to make it to where, we keeping sisters out on the Sabbath day. So, brother, Brother John from Rochester, I'm sorry. Hopefully that helped clear it up. Hopefully that helped clears up your question.
Yeah, so anywhere you have service that you're not supposed to bring them in there, right?
Okay. You saying anywhere that has service that you're not supposed to bring the dead person into the church?
Right.
Why would we do that? You're making it unclean for 7 days. Why would you do that?
Right. That's what I thought. I thought it was like that we're supposed to bring them in what we call the church, we have service at.
Right. But I want you to understand, though, what I want you to understand is that what we reading in Leviticus and in Deuteronomy and Numbers, that is dealing with the sanctuary. But we don't have the sanctuary present today. So the rules that we making and setting for our church is how we bind them. Now we're functioning out of wisdom. Just like you're not going to bring pork into your home because you're going to defile your home. We're not going to defile our home. This is our home, our church. We're not going to defile it with a dead body. That's the answer to your question. Meaning, when you use the word sanctuary in the Bible, I have to specify what that is. So it's not that we're not bringing a dead body into the sanctuary. We're not bringing a dead body into our church because we don't want to defile our church, our home, where we come and have worship at. That's the reason.
That's what I'm talking about. Anywhere you have worship at.
Right. But I just want you to understand that when you use the word sanctuary, and especially when you start going back into the scriptures, that's somewhere specific. Okay. All right. So to answer your question, no, we're not going to have no dead bodies up here in Israel Church of Jesus. Israel of God, House of Jacob, any other congregations of Israel where they preaching the gospel, they ain't finna have no dead bodies up in their church. No funerals is gonna be at their church. And definitely not on Saturday.
Right.
And definitely not on Saturday. But when they have them at these pagan churches, I could care less.
Yeah, right. They have them Sunday churches. Yeah.
Yeah, the same church where they had a mural of Jesus with the rays around his head. The same churches where there's a cross, probably 3 of them at the front door and probably 1 of them on the roster, And you understand what I'm saying? Like when you walk in these
Right.
so-called buildings of worship, they're not godly. Like I walked into a Catholic church, man, they had gargoyles all over the place, all type of idolatry. At my home church where I grew up, they got a doggone white Jesus knocking at the door. Like this stuff is not righteous. It's evil. And when we try to equate it like that's church, to me that's a disrespect to what church truly is. To call that church. Now, you know, I might talk to somebody and be like, yeah, what church you go to, because I'm referring to where you worship. But that ain't no church to me. You know, and definitely not the sanctuary. So hopefully, Brother John, that help you get some better understanding on that.
I'm gonna say this here though. Why do people, when people read about it, they say, well, that was just in the Old Testament. That's not for us. People quick to say that. Even at the Sabbath, they'll say, you know, they say stuff like that's not for us today, you know. And that was back in the Old Testament. But I tell you, God don't change, you know.
Yes, that is true. The only thing that I would say about what's not for us is when we start dealing with the priest and the intricacies of the priesthood. You know, we not killing lambs. We not, you know, when a woman is on her cycle, she can't come down to the priest and bring a turtle dove or whatever and get sprinkled with water. Those things can't be done anymore because we don't have a priesthood. But other than that, anything else that you read in the Old Testament, even when it tell you don't mar the corners of your beard and round or don't mar the corners of your head and your beard or whatever, that's still good. You know, don't mingle seeds in your garden. That's still good. You know, all these things are still good. Don't put any markers in your flesh for the dead. Don't prostitute your daughters. All that stuff is in the law. How can you say, oh, well, and a lot of times they'll try to say the pork. Oh, well, you know, that's done away with. That's the Old Testament where you can't eat pork. But we can eat it now. So then I guess, you know, I can prostitute my daughter now then, huh? You know what I mean? Because I can find that in the same book. Which one are we gonna do away with? Now me, I'm gonna do away with. I'm gonna keep them both. You know what I mean? But you know, that's me personally. I'm not gonna prostitute my daughter, and I'm not gonna eat pork. Now you can make your choice off of that. But so hopefully you got some understanding though, huh?
My granddad raised me up on pork.
Yeah, I had plenty bacon. I ate plenty bacon. I still eat bacon, it just ain't pork though. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take. I see we broadcasting on YouTube, and okay, all right. I'm looking at. We had a question on YouTube, so that's where I'm going to. Peace to you, Sister Jennifer. It says, so for the people who choose to stay home on the Sabbath because they are unclean by reason of the dead body, are they condemning themselves because they're not partaking in the sprinkling of the water of separation on the third day and whatnot? I mean, by claiming to uphold the cleanliness law, but not in its entirety. Very good question. So now we begin to look at, well, if you don't bring a dead body in the church, well, what if I was unclean Thursday by touching a dead body? Do I come to church? I mean, really, I would say you need to keep your holy convocation. That's what I would say. I would look at the Bible. As it says that the whole earth has been defiled. Now, purposely, I'm not going to bring a dead body into the church. We're talking about from outside the church into the church. I'm not going to do that. But I'm not going to not keep a Sabbath, not have a holy convocation, because somebody was unclean. Not even me. Art touched a dead body, you know, Monday. No, I give you one better. Our wife touched a dead body Monday. And now she come home and, you know, she cook dinner and invite me over, and now I'm over there and I eat. Now this very well could have happened because his wife worked at a hospital. So hey, you know what I mean. And matter of fact, she worked there every week. So the chances of her being unclean is highly likely. To the point where this sister, and much respect to her, she take vacation. She don't take vacation during the feast. I mean, she might do, but she take vacation before the feast because she don't want to defile. She don't want to defile nobody because she deal with at the hospital, and it's a lot of dead bodies could be on the norm. So I much respect to that, but we're not gonna purposely defile this place. But at the same time, if somebody did, if they are defiled, they unclean. Nah, you ain't keeping the commandment. You ain't keeping the commandment of by staying home, of not defiling the place that's already defiled, especially this one. And when I say especially this one, because we share a building. And man, look, I wouldn't be surprised if on lunch break, while we up here doing the dietary law, they downstairs eating a BLT sandwich. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't surprise me. I'm not saying that that's what they doing, but I'm like, we share a building. So that would make this whole building defiled. But we didn't do that on purpose. But again, the law in the Bible dealing with clean and unclean is specific to the sanctuary. And just let us remember that. I got another one here. Let's see. Did you say you still eat bacon and not the pork? Nah, I still eat bacon, just not pork bacon. That's all. I eat beef and turkey bacon. Yeah, I eat beef, bacon, cheeseburgers. But yeah, so I apologize if I wasn't clear on that. Do we got any other questions online? Appreciate that. We have any other questions online?
Excuse me, can I ask you one more question?
No, you can't. No, I'm just playing. Go ahead, my brother. Like, I couldn't help myself. Go ahead, Brother John.
Another question I want to ask, I was talking with a preacher, and we were talking about Abraham. He said Abraham didn't keep the commandments of God. He said that the laws and stuff, like the Sabbath and stuff, But I disagreed with him. He said that it wasn't, the law and stuff, commandment wasn't given then, until Moses.
I get where he's coming from. I get where he's coming from. That the law didn't come till Moses. Now, I think that's even in the Bible. I think that Paul said that the law didn't come till Moses. Now, what that means is that, you know what that is offhand? We can read that real quick. Let's go to Rome. I know where you're going. Let's go to Romans, though. Yeah, Romans 5. You good. So the Bible does say, and we want to make sure we're clear on that, what that means. When it said Romans 5, and let's pick it up at about verse, let's pick it up at 12. So the Bible is clear on your answer, and we're going to get that. But the law didn't come till Moses. So let's pick it up in verse 12. So when you get Romans 5 and 12.
That's what we see in Galatians 3 too. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. For until the law, sin was in the world, but sin is not imputed when there is no law.
All right, so notice verse 13. And what verse 13 is beginning to do is explain where it said, wherefore as by one man sin entered into the world and death by sin. Well, verse 13 is saying, look, for until the law, sin was in the world. Meaning before the law came, sin existed. But then he turned around and said, but sin is not imputed when there is no law. Meaning, like, we don't count it against you if there's no law against it. For example, if you go outside and smoke a cigarette, you ain't broke the law. Now, if you walk inside of a hospital and smoke a cigarette, you're breaking the law. And because there's a law on the book saying you can't do that, okay? So in that verse 13, he says, for until the law, sin was in the world. So he's saying before the law came, sin was in the world. Because you got to understand, sin is when you break the law. So now what we got to do, John, is understand how was the law, how was sin here when there was no law? Well, what that means is there was no written law. No written law. Because we can go back in Genesis and see where Pharaoh say to Abraham, you almost caused me to do what? To sin by sleeping with your wife. So obviously, not only was there a law present, but it wasn't that just for Abraham and his children. Pharaoh knew you ain't supposed to sleep with another man's wife. Okay? So, but we're gonna get to that aspect of it shortly. Go ahead, keep reading.
Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses.
Even though it wasn't no law, death was here still from Adam to Moses. Even though the law wasn't here. Go ahead.
Even over them that had not sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression, who is the figure of him that was to come.
Go ahead.
But not as the offense, so also is the free gift. For if through the offense of one many be dead, much more the grace of God and the gift by grace, which is by one man, Jesus Christ.
Okay, that's good. We'll have to read the rest of that. So what I just wanted us to show that again, for until the law sin was in the world. Nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses, because Moses brought the law. So it's like, okay, then what was there beforehand? So now, and we can read that somewhere else. We can go to John, where it says Moses brought the law, but grace and truth came by Jesus. Like, we can read that in other places, but I want us to read something about, where you going?
No, I was just...
Oh, I want us to read something about Abraham real quick. So this is your answer, John, to this brother, this minister that's coming at you with that. And it's a one-hitter quitter, as we like to call it. So we're going to go to Genesis 26 and verse 5. Genesis 26 and 5. And when you get there, go ahead.
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes.
Wait a minute, I thought the law wasn't here. It said Abraham kept his commandments, his statutes, heard his voice. Go ahead.
And my laws.
Abraham kept, read that again, man.
Because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. And, okay.
So we see Abraham kept his law. Like, that's what Abraham kept his law. It's clear with that. So obviously the law was here. Now let's go to Psalm 119. I'm going to show you something. Psalm 119. Remember that lady said Psalm 119 had, how many verses said it had? About 1,000 in it. Psalm 119. And we're going to read, let's see here. We're going to the hundreds. And, all right, let's read Psalms 119. And let's start reading at verse 160. Well, better yet, started at verse 144. 144. Or 142. There we go. 142. We're going to jump through it. Huh? What you saying?
201.
Oh, okay, no problem. Psalms 119 and start at verse 142. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Trouble and anguish have taken hold on me, yet thy commandments are my delights.
All right, so at verse 142, he said, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. All right, now let's skip down to verse 151.
Thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are truth.
All right, so the law is the truth, the commandments are the truth, you know, his righteousness, and he called it everlasting, as if to say it's from day one. But let's go to verse 160 now.
Thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgments endureth forever.
Right. So what we getting at is, what he's showing you through all this is that, look, the law been here from day one. That's the reason why Cain and Abel was wrong Cain was wrong when he killed his brother Abel. Because it was a law. The law is with God. So it's still a law, even though it wasn't written in stone yet. it still existed. You couldn't sleep with another man's wife. And that's where Pharaoh was going to mess up. Matter of fact, let's go look at that real quick. Let's go to Genesis, I think it's chapter 12, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think it's going to tell us in here that he was about to sin. You was almost caused me to sin. Let me see, I say, or it might have came later when he actually used that word sin, though. Therefore, it might be later, because it seemed like it was in here again, too. We're going to cheat.
You was right. Genesis 12.
It's 12?
Mm-hmm. Around verse 17, I think.
And the Lord played Pharaoh's house, and what has thou done? And she told me to go that way. It don't say sin right there, though, do it? No, I want the one where it say sin. Don't worry, I'm going to find it. No. Because they're saying, even the Lord said it, though. Oh, Genesis 20. And the Abimelech called Abraham. Yeah, that thou hast brought upon my kingdom a great sin, thou hast indeed. Yeah. So let's go to Genesis chapter 20. Genesis 20. So it wasn't Pharaoh. I apologize. It was Abimelech. Okay. All right, and I'm sorry.
It was Pharaoh. It was Abraham telling Pharaoh. It was Genesis 12. I think I want to say starting at verse somewhere between verse 8 and 14, somewhere along in there.
Yeah, but did he use the word sin? I was looking for that particular. Yeah, and I don't think it's.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't. Right. Yeah. We're all right that happened there, and that Pharaoh got on. Pharaoh was like, and the Lord was about to plague him for that. But here in Genesis 20, he's going to actually use the word sin. Pick it up in Genesis 20 and verse 1. I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, some verse 9.
Yeah.
And Abraham journeyed from thence toward the south country and dwelled between Kadesh and Shur and sojourned in Gerar. Mm-hmm. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, she is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, behold, thou art but a dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife.
So I want us to pay attention to a few things here. The Lord ain't talking to no Israelite right here. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's something to consider. Even when we looking at earlier today in our questioning, when we was talking about this woman, Pilate's wife, how the Lord came and spoke to her via angel, had her dreams tripping that night. All right, so now the Lord is coming and speaking to Abimelech. Go ahead.
But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, verse 4. But Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation? Mm. Said he not unto me, she is my sister, and she?
This way he told me, I ain't know. Go ahead.
Said he not unto me, she is my sister, and she, even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocency of my hands have I done this.
So now, he hadn't slept with her, though. Not yet. He was going to. Now, a few things I want us to take note of. How ignorance ain't no excuse. Like the Lord, it don't matter. If they lied to you, that's why I'm coming to you. I'm saving you from this. But if you ain't know, now let's say you met a woman and you ain't know she was married, and y'all met at a club, and next thing you know, or maybe she worked with you and y'all building a relationship and she been lying. And then, you thinking that you took it serious and you go and sleep with her. She's still married. Doesn't matter that you didn't know. You still committed adultery, unfortunately. Now, I don't know how God gonna look at that because it was in your mistake. Maybe he won't, maybe it was your ignorance, he won't, they deceived you into that. But we see here that the Lord is stopping Abimelech from this. Go ahead.
And God said unto him in a dream, yeah, I know that thou didst this in the integrity of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me, therefore suffered I thee not to touch her.
So we see here, there is no law, yet the Lord said, I stopped you from sinning against me, which if we look at the definition of sin, it's when you break God's law. But we've already read where Abraham kept God's law, though. The law has been here from the beginning. It just wasn't etched in stone. It was passed per individual. Why do we think Noah was a righteous man? Because he kept God's law. He wasn't no thief. He wasn't no killer. Whatever the case happened. Go ahead.
He had a dietary law.
Right, he wasn't eating pork, obviously, not Noah. But go ahead.
Therefore Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told all these things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said unto him, What hast thou done unto us? And what have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and on my kingdom a great sin? Thou hast done deeds unto me that are not to be done.
See, so he came back out of his mouth and was like, man, you caused us to sin. Based off of what, though? The law of God. Like, that's the whole point. Like, sin is when you break God's law. Sin is not when you break Pennsylvania law or the United States law. That's not sin. Now, you might go to jail, but that's not sin. Sin is when you break God's law. Now, this is a king here. So there's no higher authority that he could be subjecting himself to short of God. Yeah, your battery getting low. So at any rate, my brother, I hope that Genesis truly is what helped. That Genesis 26 and, was it 25? Yeah, 25 and towards 26 and verse 5. I hope that really helps to show that Abraham, he kept the commandments, and that brother just blatantly lied. Because the Bible says, you say he was a preacher, right?
Yeah.
Another lying but preacher. Because he just blatantly lied. Like, that's in the Bible, in Genesis. It's almost like you just didn't even read the Old Testament to make that statement. You know, or he just thought he could pull the wool on your eye, as they say. But we got another question. I'm sorry, Brother John. Go ahead. Yeah, I know, right? He fishing, all right. He fishing catfish. But at any rate, huh? Oh, he said he called himself a bishop. Oh, he's not. He call himself what he wants to. That's what we call a false prophet, though. That's exactly what we call it. So, he ought not say it to me. Because I'm going to tell him, like, man, you just a false prophet. I'm probably going to be a little meaner about it, though. Because I don't like false prophets. I don't. Because you lying. Like, and when I say that, I'm talking about on a broad perspective, I don't like. Because every one of these preachers on Sunday, like, every single one don't necessarily know. But once you begin to hold a conversation with them and like them, you'll see where they at. And some of them do be knowing. A lot of them be knowing. Like, I would say probably 90%, but I'm not gonna say 100% no, because some of them, they don't even know what they doing. Just like you.
He told me he goes to the Sabbath church on Saturday, but he told me, I asked him, I said, why don't you tell your congregation? Now he goes to church on Sunday too. He pastors the church on Sunday. And I told him, why don't you tell your congregation about the Sabbath? He told me, he said, man, if I tell the people that, they might leave the church. I said, oh, my Lord.
Yeah, well, he got that blood on his hands. I wouldn't like that. But John, we're gonna go. We got a question online here that I want to make sure we address before it gets too late.
Okay.
Yeah, but I definitely appreciate your question, and I'm hoping that would suffice in that Genesis to answer your question. We got an Anthony Comedy. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong.
Anthony Comedy.
That's how it looked like it sound. Commandi. Okay. Well, at any rate, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, Brother Anthony. It says, if my wife is unclean by reason of the issue of blood, should I still attend Sabbath as the husband? Let's go look at that real quick. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 14 maybe? 15. Leviticus chapter 15. And we're going to let the Bible answer that. We're not even going to answer it. And we're going to start at verse 19. And we're going to let the Bible give its own answer. When you get there, go ahead.
And if a woman have an issue, and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall be put apart 7 days. And whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean. Everything also that she sitteth upon shall be unclean.
Yes, sir.
And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even.
Go ahead.
And whosoever touches anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean till the even. And if it be on her bed or on anything whereon she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean until the even. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed wherein he lieth shall be unclean.
Go ahead.
And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of the issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation, she shall be unclean.
Go ahead.
Every bed wherein she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. And whosoever toucheth those things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. But if she be cleansed from her issue, if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean.
Go ahead.
And on the 8th day she shall take unto her 2 turtles, or 2 young pigeons.
You know what I call them? Turtle doves? Yeah, I think that's what they are. I don't think it's just turtles, though. But go ahead.
Or 2 young pigeons, and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering.
That's why I don't think it's just no turtle, because that's unclean.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I think they talking turtle doves here. But go ahead.
And the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for her before the Lord for the issue of her uncleanness.
All right, so here's really your answer, Brother Anthony. Go ahead.
Thus shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is among them.
That's the answer. That they don't defile my tabernacle that is among them. The Lord's tabernacle ain't among us no more. So really, you're not keeping that law. Like, if my wife is unclean by reason of an issue of blood, should I still attend the Sabbath as the husband? Yes, both of y'all should be. She's not defiling the tabernacle. The tabernacle is not here. That's where that sanctuary was. The sanctuary sat inside the tabernacle, where they had the showbread and the veil in which they, in the Ark of the Covenant, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I've had to deal with that personally, where actually I was being a little stickler for the law, because I was at a congregation at one point where they said that we couldn't come unclean, and I was like, whatever. Like, I respect God before I respect man, and I know I got to keep a holy convocation, me and my wife. So when she was unclean, and nobody ever said anything short of asking me, should we come to church when we unclean? And the crazy thing was, at that time, I just said, well, you know, you got to keep the house ruled. But I read the scripture though, because I wasn't trying to create a rebellion amongst the people. But personally, I can stand for myself, and I know what this book says. And this book is saying that you don't defile the tabernacle that is among them. And I ain't seen the tabernacle nowhere in any land in America. And I done been to a lot of camps, and I ain't seen it once. So hopefully that answers your question, because that's what that's talking about. So yes, my brother, you should still keep your holy convocation as commanded in Leviticus 23, which it says to do with all your dwellings. The last question we got here is in Zephaniah Hashim. I'm not even going to try to do the first name. I don't even know if that's real. It might be. I'm just not good with names. But Hashim, that's the last name. In Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 7 through 8, what is the sacrifice in the day of the Lord's sacrifice? That's a good question. And let's turn over here to Zephaniah chapter 1. We can read what he's talking about. And let's pick it up at verse 4.
I will also stretch out my hand upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants.
Nope, let's not start there. Let's start at verse 2.
I will utterly consume all things from off the land, saith the Lord.
Yes, sir.
I will consume man and beast. I will consume the fowls of the heaven and the fishes of the sea, and the stumbling blocks with the wicked.
Go ahead.
And I will cut off man from off the land, saith the Lord.
Yes, sir.
I will also stretch out my hand upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off the remnant of Baal from this place, and the name of the Chemarims with the priests. And them that worship the hosts of heaven upon the housetops, and them that worship and that swear by the Lord, and that swear by Malcham, and them that are turned back from the Lord.
So the Lord is talking about killing all these people upon his return. Go ahead.
And them that are turned back from the Lord, and those that have not sought the Lord, nor inquired for him.
So ignorance of the law is no excuse according to this. Go ahead.
Go thy peace at the presence of the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is at hand. For the Lord hath prepared a sacrifice. He hath bid his guests.
Yes, sir.
And it shall come to pass in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children and all such as are clothed with strange apparel.
All right. So let's go look at Isaiah 63, I think. Is that what I want, or do I want like 34? Wherefore thou red in thy apparel. No, I want what he said. I got to sacrifice of bowls. That might be Isaiah 34.
63 and 1.
Who died, Lord? I was just there. No, not it. It's another one. He said I had to sacrifice in bowls. Right?
Oh, shoot. I just read the buzzer.
I think that's, is that Ezekiel 34? Hold on, I'm going to find it. Oh, yeah, here we go. Isaiah 34. So here's that sacrifice. Here's the answer to your question.
Verse 6?
Yeah, it's in 6, but you know me. We're going to start at 1. Isaiah 34 and 1. So the question is, what's the Lord's sacrifice? What's the Lord's sacrifice that was in Zephaniah chapter 1? So go ahead.
Come near, ye nations, to hear and hearken, ye people, let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood.
So we can almost say this is a continuation of that Zephaniah 1 when he was talking about doing all that killing. But go ahead.
And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll.
And if we understand, we can find this somewhere else, as in Matthew 24. But go ahead.
And all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree.
Let's hear from the Lord.
For my sword shall be bathed in heaven.
Yes, it is.
Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, and upon the people of my curse to judgment.
So he said, my sword going to come down upon Idumea when he returned, the people of his curse. Go ahead.
The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea.
So his sacrifice in Bozrah, and Bozrah is basically south of Judah. It's where Edom is. It's the so-called Jew, the fake Jew. And that's what his sacrifice is. So when the Lord returns, he planned on dealing with them when he returned. That's his sacrifice, the Edomite. Okay, so hopefully that helped answer that question.
Fake Jew.
Yeah, fake Jew. We got Brother Anthony again. If you have a minute, brother, when they built the third temple and began animal sacrifices, do we have a countdown to when the abomination of desolation moves to the holy place? Yeah. So let's turn to Daniel 9. And I'll help you best I can without getting up to write on the board. And did I say Daniel 9? Not Daniel 9. Let's turn to the book of Daniel. I think we want to go to
12 said
2300 days?
it said 1,209.
Nah, we looking at Daniel 8, I think. Where it said 2300. How long should it be? How long should the temple be cleansed or something? How long should it be before the cleansing of the temple? Let's go to Daniel. I think it's 8.
Oh, you mean count?
Yeah.
As it said, from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that make a desolate set up, there shall be 1,200.
That's not the one we want.
Right.
We want, I think it's Daniel, is it 8? Yeah, 8. All right, so it says, if you have a minute, bro, when they build the third temple and begin the animal sacrifice, do we have a countdown to when the abomination of desolation moves in the holy place? Okay, so read Daniel 8 and 13. That's how we're going to get our first number that we're going to deal with.
Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice?
So now he asking him to break down how long is the daily sacrifice, which is actually what you talking about when they start sacrificing. Go ahead.
And the transgression of desolation.
And how long is the basically abomination of desolation? Go ahead.
To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot.
So how long from the time they start sacrificing, basically until the temple be clean? Go ahead.
And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Okay, so they're going to start sacrificing over there in Jerusalem. They're going to put up another temple. They're going to mimic what we see in Leviticus, call it the sanctuary. And then 2,300 days from the time they start sacrificing, will it be before the Lord has the temple cleansed? So we're going to say that the temple going to be cleansed when he returns. Now, the abomination of desolation, when you say move into the holy place, I'm just going to give you the time period of the Great Tribulation. So that's 1,260 days. So if we do the math work, and I can remember how to do the math work, it's been so long, we got about 1,040 days from the time they start sacrificing, which is your 2,300 day mark, to from 2,300 days, the sanctuary be cleansed. So that's the return of the Lord, when the sanctuary is cleansed. Then 1,260 days is how long 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. So that ending point is the same ending point as the 2,300. So we would just subtract 1,260 days from the 2,300 days. That'll give us 1,040 days. So you got about 1,040 days before the abomination of desolation once they start sacrificing. Now, your question more specifically though was, if you have when they build the third temple and begin animal sacrifice. So I picked it up from animal sacrifice. Do we have a countdown to when the abomination of desolation moves to the holy place? I don't know if he moved to the holy place before the 1260. You know, he could move there at 1290. You know what I mean? Like it's you know, but I'm giving you the numbers that we got are definite on, and that's 1260 and 1230. Now I do know we got some other numbers, and I do know how to play with them, but I don't want to confuse the matter on the phone. I think that's the easiest way to deal with that right now, and we do got some lessons kind of that show it in more detail where you can kind of see it. So hopefully that helped clear it up a little bit. So with that being said, is there anything else online? I mean on the phone. I could have put that 11 in there. Let's read this Daniel 12 and 11 real quick, and then we'll conclude with that. I don't want this to confuse it, but I'll add it in there since it's in my brain. Verse 11. Daniel 12 and 11.
And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days.
So now what you would do on that chart, if you were making one, is 2,300. And then we had the 1,260 days. That's how long the Great Tribulation is. Verse 11 says, from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away and the abomination of desolation set up. So I guess it's going to start its setup at about 1,290, which is 30 days prior to how long the Great Tribulation is. So, you know, you could subtract 30. So that'll be 1,010 days from the time they start sacrificing till we get to the beginning of that 1290 when they take away the sacrifice and they start setting up the abomination. At that point, just the most important number is it's 3.5 years of hell we gonna catch if you ain't in the wilderness. That's really the most important number. But knowing the 1230, the 1290, those things are good to know because that's how we gonna know when to really get up out of here. Because when I see them start sacrificing, I'm easing my way out of America some type of way. If I gotta start walking, I guess it'll take me 1,000 days to walk over there to the Middle East from Alaska. But we gonna do something. But we gonna start getting out of here. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I hope that we got some understanding today. I really appreciate your time. Like always, it is a pleasure, an honor to sit before you and deliver God's word. And we're going to go ahead and close it out, my brother.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done in earth,
thy will be done on earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
Praise the Lord,
Praise the Lord,
for he is good,
for he is good,
for his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel,
Praise the Lord, the God of Israel,
for he is good,
for he is good,
for his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
In Jesus' name we pray.
In Jesus' name we pray.
The Holy One of Israel,
The Holy One of Israel,
the Mighty One of Jacob,
the Mighty One of Jacob,
the King of Kings
King of kings,
and Lord of Lords.
and Lord of lords.
Amen.
Amen. I appreciate everybody for being on. I do want to, because we are online, Anthony Kamani, because the Lord told us to flee, do we need to prepare with passports and tickets? The world, nah, man. I mean, you can get a passport, it ain't gonna hurt nothing. And you can get a ticket to fly out of here. Just make sure your flight ain't on the Sabbath.
Right.
But just like the Lord delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt, he gonna make sure we straight. Or even better, how he hid them in the land of Goshen during the during the plagues. You know, Israel didn't have to do nothing to get hid.
Right.
So the Lord said in Revelation 12 that he said they was gonna fly out on eagle's wings or something to that effect. So Revelation 12 and 14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of an eagle, great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, that's a year, and times, that's 2 years, so that's 3, and a half a time, so that's 3.5 years from the face of the serpent. So now the Lord gonna make a way for you to get delivered, as long as you had a faith. And again, though, if you want to go get a passport, cool. And if you want to get you a ticket to get over there when you start seeing it, if you can make it over there, that's even better. But the Lord everybody ain't gonna be able to have those arrangements, and the Lord gonna make sure we get there. So hopefully you got some understanding on that, bro. And again, I thank everybody who joined us today for Bible study. I do apologize for being a little late. And I guess I'll see you on my next go.
We thank you, Brother Jediah.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
In Jesus' name.
Peace. Peace. That's what that was. All that time. Hey man, it's some type of magnetic field on my phone, man. Did you see that? I ain't gonna do it now though. I think it's because both of them was on. Yeah. That's crazy. You didn't even need the my girl because we could just use
Amen.